Hello all. So today's topic that we are going to cover in this video is going to be the nucleic acids, which are the 10% of the dry mass of the cell. Okay. We have spoke about the carbohydrates, which were 25%, and we spoke about the lipids, which were the 5% of the dry mass of the cell. And now the topic that we are dealing is the nucleic acids. They are going to be the 10% of the dry mass of this particular cell. Okay. When we speak about these nucleic acids in general, we get a clear-cut picture regarding the DNA and RNA. Okay, today we'll be learning about how these nucleic acids, that is the polymers of the nucleotides, are being formed, and how they get bonded up, and what is the nature of it, and what makes them very unique in transferring the information in the generations from parent to the offspring, and how they play a major role in the protein synthesis as well as the regulation of the proteins and all. Okay. So for speaking about these nucleic acids, why do we regard them as acids? It's just because of the presence of a phosphate group. Okay, and this phosphate has this hydroxyl, and it just because of the presence of this particular phosphate are nucleic acids, that is because of the phosphates, they are acidic in nature, so we regard them these as the nucleic acids. Okay, and talking about the functions of the nucleic acids, they are helping, they are actually responsible for the storage of information. They are helpful, they are actually needed for the transferring of the information. Okay, genetic information. They are actually responsible for the variations. I'll even speak about how and why are these mutations seen in the DNA, what state are being done. We'll be checking those, but talking about the functions, I spoke about the storage of information, transfer of information, about the variations, and we'll be talking about they are helping in the protein synthesis process. They are helping in regulation of the proteins. They're actually responsible for the, what you call is, they are the ones which encode the information in order to bring out the functions of the cells and functions in the body, actually, to say. So these are the major functions of these nucleic acids. So generally speaking about, these are the ones which are going to be regarded as the storage molecules, okay, for the storage of the genetic information. And today I'll be starting up my video by showing you the one of the images, one of the pictures, which is being called as a photo 51. Photo 51. Let me show you this. This is one of the very major and important pictures. She is Rosalind Franklin. Okay, I think you people are well aware, and you know this lady about. She's Rosalind Franklin. She was working with Maurice Wilkins, and she was assisted by one of a graduate student from King's College London. He was Raymond Gosling, and they were actually working on the pre-crystalline gel DNA fiber. They have encompassed the DNA fiber in the pre-crystalline gel, and they were actually performing this X-ray crystallography on the DNA fiber. And it was Raymond Gosling who could actually capture a picture of DNA. This was this picture, which was being called as Photo 51. And there's even a Hollywood movie on this, which is a Photograph 51. Okay, so this is Photo 51 being captured by the students of Rosalind Franklin, Mr. Raymond Gosling. This is an image which is actually giving you the structure of the DNA, which has been captured inside a pre-crystalline gel. So she is the one who has actually worked on the structure of the DNA, but unfortunately she could not receive the Nobel Prize. By the time they received, that is Watson and Crick received, she was no more, because as she was working with the x-rays, she suffered with an ovarian cancer, and she lost her life very early. And coming on to Watson and Crick, they were the persons who actually worked on the model of this particular DNA double helical structure, and they built up a huge model of these what you call is this DNA molecule, and they received a Nobel Prize for this discovery of the double helical structure of the DNA. Okay, So I think now you know about Rosalind Franklin, who is actually responsible for the function that is working on the structure of the DNA, but the model was being built up by Watson and Crick. Watson and Crick. Let me show you one of the pictures of photo 51. You can just learn about this. See, this was this beautiful picture being captured by Mr. Raymond Gosling, which was being called as the what you call is photo 51. This is this double helical structure of DNA on which till the date people are working on to know about the secrets of it. Okay, now coming on to, we know that our nucleic acids, that is our DNA and the RNA, are the polymers. Actually, they are macromolecules. You know that when I was talking about the lipids, I told you many a times, I repeated talking that the biological macromolecules are often they are the polymers. So since nucleic acids are also one of the biomolecules, they should also be the polymers. So they are built by the monomers, which are called as nucleotides. Okay, so nucleic acids are the polymers of nucleotides. So first of all, our concept regarding the nucleotide has to get cleared. Okay, so what we'll do is we will go step by step and we will check what are those nucleotides. So before I start about the nucleotide, you have to know that these nucleotides are going to contain some of the important constituents. So before I jump into anything else, let me show you the first important constituent of the nucleotide is going to be a nitrogen base, or we call it as a nucleobase. Nucleobases are of two different types. They are being called as purines, and the other category is being called as pyrimidines. Listen, students, I am talking about the nucleic acids, and I'm defining a nucleic acid as the polymer of nucleotides. Okay, got it? Now, a nucleotide has set of components. Amongst those components, the first thing to build up a nucleotide, that is a monomer, is going to be a nitrogen base or a nucleobase. The first one is going to be, the first category of the nitrogen base is purine, and the other category is going to be pyrimidine. And coming on to purines, the difference is you can check the ring structure of these. Here it is a double ring structure. The double ring structures are called as purines, and the single ring structures are being called as pyrimidines. Okay, the purines are, I usually call take a short form of that, it's been called as AG. Okay, so I'll give you a shortcut how to remember that. If you want your hubby to listen to you to get TC from the school, to transfer your kid from one school to the other, so this is a shortcut comedy thing that I used to actually what you call is use it while I was a student. Okay, AGTC law. AG is nothing but it's going to be, AG is going to be clubbed together. Okay, so they are purines. AG is adenine, adenine and guanine. So A, so we usually refer them with the first letters, that is A and the G, so we call it as AG. Both of them are purine, so they are double cycled. Okay, two cycled. Okay, now coming on to pyrimidines, you want TC from the school, so it's going to be TC, which is going to be thymine, and it's going to be cytosine. But remember that this thymine is only seen in DNA molecule, whereas when you look at the structure of the RNA molecule, thymine is replaced by one of the pyrimidines, which is being called as uracil. So this can only be seen in the RNA. It can only be seen in the RNA. So remember that the shortcut is AG. So AG हम तोड़ नहीं सकते. So it is going to be AG. It's going to be the purines, which are the two ring structures what we have, and we have the other one is going to be the pyrimidines, which are going to be single ring structures. They are usually TC, that is thymine, as well as cytosine. This will be replaced in the RNA by one of the other pyrimidines called as a uracil. Okay, this is going to be the uracil. Now coming on to I was talking about these nitrogen bases, but when we'll be talking about the sugar molecules. I think we know that there are two different sorts of sugars actually. If you remember, I have shown you these sugar molecules when I was talking about the DNA molecule, and when I was talking about these carbohydrates, I introduced you a particular what you call is sugars, that is pentose sugars having the 5 carbon uh, atoms, which are being called as pentose sugars, which are one of the categories of the monosaccharides. And coming on to these, this is going to be actually what you are seeing on the screen is actually a DNA molecule dinucleotide, but this is a sugar molecule where this is the one first prime, the second prime, the third prime, the fourth prime, and the fifth prime carbon, because these are the pentose sugars. So it is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. So these are regarded as a first prime, okay, the second prime carbon, third prime carbon, fourth prime carbon, this is a fifth prime carbon. And you can see that the 1, 2, the second prime carbon here is comprising of a hydroxyl group, okay, hydroxyl group. This is the one which is sugar that we were talking about. But let me actually show you an image where you can get information regarding the differences between what you call is a deoxyribose sugar and a ribose sugar, okay? Deoxyribose sugar and a ribose sugar. Let me get this image. Yeah, this is the one I was talking about. Okay. Yeah. You can check out that the second prime carbon here is actually having only hydrogen but not an hydroxyl. O is absent here. So it is a deoxyribose where the second prime carbon is lacking a oxygen, whereas in the ribose sugar, the second carbon is going to have a oxygen. So it is a ribose sugar having hydroxyl group, while in the DNA, we can see that it is going to be the second prime carbon having only hydrogen. So that is the difference between the deoxyribose sugar and a ribose sugar. And we are naming these nucleic acids based on the what we call is the presence of the sugar molecule. Talking about the sugar molecules, let me show you this nucleotide here. Okay, so the first thing I was spoke about, so you are having these two ring structures. So it is going to be the purine, which we are talking about. This is a purine, okay, that is a AG. So this is adenine here, and this coming on to the 5 carbon atom sugar, which is that is pentose sugar, and this is here lacking in on the second prime carbon. There is no oxygen, so we call it as a deoxyribose sugar. And this deoxyribose sugar, you can see that there are 5 carbons: the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4, and the fifth carbon over here. You can see that the sugar molecule is binded or bounded up with the phosphate molecule over here. This is a phosphate molecule. So the fifth carbon is connected with the phosphate molecule, and the phosphate molecule is negatively charged. That is, it is polar in nature. It is negatively charged, and this is making it polar. And we all know that when we learned about the lipids, I spoke about the non-polar character of the lipids, which makes them hydrophobic. While here you can see that there is a negative charge here. This is making them a polar molecule, and this is the one actually making it acidic in nature, and this is the one which is actually making it a polar molecule, due to which they are hydrophilic in nature because of the polarity. That is, because of the presence of this polar character, they are becoming hydrophilic in nature. So remember that the carbon, that is the sugars, on either side, you can see that the first prime carbon is connected with the nitrogen base or a nucleobase here, and the fifth carbon is attached with the phosphate group over here. This is very important, so you need to remember this. So a sugar with a nitrogen base, that is the first carbon atom of the Sugar is with the nitrogen base linked up with a bond. And here we can see that here it's going to be the fifth carbon atom, which is going to be linked up with the phosphate molecule. Okay. The bond between the sugar and this nitrogen base is going to be a glycosidic bond. This is going to be a glycosidic bond. Now coming on to this whole structure with a nitrogen base linked to the first prime carbon is going to be, that is a sugar, and the fifth one attached with the phosphate togetherly is called as a nucleotide. It's been called as a nucleotide. So there are two other terms that you need to have a clarification regarding. So that is going to be a nucleotide and a nucleoside. So coming on to, you can see that this is going to be your nitrogen base, and this is a pentose sugar. This is a pentose sugar. It might be a DNA, that is deoxyribose sugar, or it might be a ribose sugar. So a nitrogen base with the sugar here linked up with the phosphate. So you all know in the prior image I have told you that the first prime, that is a carbon, is going to be connected with the base, and the fifth one is going to be connected with the phosphate molecule here. So when there are the bases, the sugars and the phosphates, then we should regard them as the nucleotides. Okay. But when you are going to have only the nitrogen bases linked up with the sugars, then we are going to call it as nucleoside. See, remember that how the way I used to remember when I was a student was, it's a nitrogen base. Nitrogen base stands for N. Sugar stands for S. So it's going to be nucleoside. The two things to be underlined here when you write a nucleoside is going to be N and S. N stands for nitrogen base, S stands for a sugar molecule. Okay. Now coming on to the nucleotide, it is all together. It's all together in the tide carried away. So all together they are carried away in the tide. So everything carried is going to be the base, the sugar molecule, as well as the phosphate molecule over here. I think now you have understood that are macromolecules, that is the nucleic acids, are the polymers of nucleotides. So I am now explaining you what is a nucleotide, how they get repeated, how they are going to form a huge polymer that we'll be checking in the next procedure. But before I jump into that process, you should even know the terminology of nucleoside. So I have introduced to you with this particular image over here. Okay. Now coming on to the other, that is, now I have to tell you about how they are going to form these bonds. Okay, how the bonds are being formed, how these nucleotides are going to actually form up a polymer, how they form up a polymer. So when I spoke about the lipids, I was talking about the importance of the covalent bonds, importance of the hydrogen bonds. You remember I told you that even the ionic bonds, the van der Waals forces play a major role in making a what you call is a macromolecule, building a macromolecule. So now coming on to how they bond up, I'll show you, I'll talk about that. But let me speak about, if you remember, I told you that all your macromolecules are often polymers, and they undergo two sets of reactions. That is going to be the condensation process, which is going to allow the single monomers to club together. You know that the monomer in the nucleoside, sorry, in the monomer in the nucleic acid is going to be a nucleotide. So this is my nucleotide, and this is going to be my second nucleotide. So what I need to do is, this is a monomer, this is a monomer, this is a nucleotide which is regarded as a monomer, this is a nucleotide which is regarded as a monomer. These two have to club together, bond together by losing their water molecule now. So what happens is, one of the hydrogens in the third prime carbon are going to be removed along with the hydroxyl group present on this phosphate molecule of the second nucleotide present here. So that is, the hydroxyl and the hydrogen is removed in form of water molecule. You can see the water here. This is a condensation process here. You can see that this is here phosphorus forming bond with one of the alkyl groups, that is one of the sugar, and the other sugar over here. So we call this as a phosphodiester bonds. phosphodiester bonds. You can see that this phosphate has lost its hydroxyl group, that is a hydroxyl group, and here the hydrogen is being lost and they're getting together, where this phosphate is linked up with the sugar at the top and sugar at the down. There is a carbon here also it is linked up with the carbon, third prime carbon, and here it is linked up with the fifth prime carbon. So this is going to be the actual backbone which is going to link up, that is this phosphate is linking up this particular sugar molecule at the top, and at the this particular one, its own sugar is linked up with the third prime carbon over here. This is a phosphodiester bond. So they undergo a condensation reaction, and the monomer nucleotides, they club together by losing a water molecule, forming a dinucleotide. I think I made this clear to you all, that this is a monomer nucleotide losing, combining with the other nucleotide by losing the water molecule. So the process condensation, they form a phosphodiester bond. They form a phosphodiester bond, and this phosphodiester bonds are going to be the actual backbones of the DNA molecule or the RNA molecules. This is a backbone that we are going to talk about. Okay, this is a one. And let me come to the DNA double helical structure. Okay, DNA double helical structure. Let us see how they are forming a polymer. We could see now, before this, we could see the dinucleotide formation. Now coming on to the base pairing. So I told you that it is the phosphate actually connecting all the nucleotides. It is the phosphates connecting the nucleotides. So you can see that the phosphate of the second nucleotide linked up with the third. Okay, the that is a phosphate of the third nucleotide connected with the second, third prime carbon. And here again, this one has got connected with the third prime carbon of the above nucleotide over here. So this is, see, there are some indications here. This is a 5 prime because it is the phosphate is linked up with the fifth prime, that is a 5 prime carbon, and this is the topmost end where the 5 prime is to the top. We call this as 5 prime end, and to the third prime end, you can see that it is going to be the hydroxyl group. So remember, 5 prime has the phosphate, and the 3 prime is going to have a hydroxyl group. Okay, and you can see that the phosphates are only connecting these sugars of the different nucleotides and forming a bond over here, which is a phosphodiester bond, which is actually a backbone. But you can see that the nitrogen bases are going to just hang up. They're going to just hang up. The actual ones, the prime components of the DNA, which actually help in storing the information, is going to be these nitrogen bases. These are the nitrogen bases. This is very important. So you need to remember the one which is making the DNA responsible to actually store the information or capture the information is going to be these nitrogen bases. They are not forming any bonds with the, what you call is a nucleotides over here. That is sugars are forming, that is the phosphates are making a backbone by forming the phosphodiester bonds, but these no way are getting connected with this phosphates or anything. These are just going to hang. These are just going to hang. What happens is they form hydrogen bonds with the complementary strand of the DNA. This is called as anti-parallel. It's just because the topmost carbon is going to be here is a 3, that is a third prime carbon, and with the hydroxyl towards the top. While if you're going to check the bottom one is going to be the 5, that is a fifth prime carbon. So that is with the phosphate, here is a 5 prime. So it's going to be the that is the reason we regard our DNA as a anti-parallel structure, because the complementary strands are opposite. This runs from 5 prime to the 3 prime, while this runs from the 3 prime to the 5 prime. Remember that we can add up new nucleotides only in the direction of 5 prime to 3 prime. Okay, this is very important. You need to remember this plays a major role in your learning of your DNA replication process. A new nucleotide monomer can be added only from the 5 prime to 3 prime. And so now you can fix it up, but it is not from the 3 prime to 5 prime. It is only from 5 prime to 3 prime. This is very important. You can see that here this is a phosphodiester bond, and the bond between the sugar and the nitrogen base is going to be a glycosidic bond. And the both the anti-parallel strands are complementary to each other, meaning that they are bonding with each other, but it's going to be seen that the nitrogen base is going to be complementary to the nitrogen base on this particular strand. Okay, so we have to know about these, that the adenines, I told you that it is Ag. Let me come to that image, then you will understand that. When I was talking about the nitrogen bases, I told you that Ags are belonging to the same class, that is purine class. Okay, so they are not complementary. So it is going to be adenine is complementary to thymine, and guanine is complementary to cytosine. This is very important. But in the RNA, since there is no thiamine, it is going to be uracil present. Your adenine is going to combine or complementarily bond up with the uracil, that is a pyrimidine over here. Okay, this is important. So A double bond T is nothing but A has 2 hydrogen bonds linking up with this particular one, while it is going to be G triple bond C is nothing but here this is going to be having a 3 hydrogen bonds. Let me show you the prior image, you will understand that. So let me show you this one. Let me zoom this picture for you. Okay, see, the complementary nitrogen bases are bonding with the hydrogen bonds. Adenine bonds with the thymine with the 2 hydrogen bonds, while the guanine is bonding with the cytosine with the 3 hydrogen bonds. Okay, so wherever you see, it's going to be complementary bonded up with the C, that is going to be cytosine, and A is going to be bonded with the thymine. But while in the RNA molecule, since there is no thymine, only uracil is present, that is going to be replaced with the U over here. This is important to be remembered. So we could see 3 different bonds here. One is going to be the phosphodiester bond, which is going to be the backbone, and the bonding is going to be, that is a new monomer can be attached to this particular thing. That is the third prime carbon will be linked up with the new nucleotide phosphate. Okay, so that is very important to remember. These do not actually, they are not participating, they just hang. What they do is they complementarily bond up with the nitrogen bases of the complementary strand of the DNA over here. Okay, so this whole structure is nothing but, so this is a polymer now. So this is a polymer. This single unit is a monomer. Okay, a sugar, a phosphate, and a nitrogen base is a monomer. So different monomers are combining with a phosphodiester bond, increasing the length, and they're forming the huge polymers by the process called as condensation process. Okay, I think I made it clear for you all. We have seen about what is a nucleotide. We could see about talking about that a nucleotide is a monomer which is actually building up the polymer, that is a polymer called as a nucleic acid, and we spoke about what are the bonds present in them which makes them actually an acidic character is going to be the phosphates attached to this particular fifth prime carbons over here, and they are the anti-parallel strands of the DNA we spoke about, and the way the complementary nitrogen bases bonding with each other. Okay, now coming on to as I spoke about the RNA, I think I have to introduce with RNA molecule, but before that, let me give you a technique to remember the phosphodiester bond. So this is the image. This is the image. So this is your phosphate molecule where the 5 prime carbon of one of the nucleotide, 5 prime carbon. You know that phosphate, sugar, and a nitrogen base. Nitrogen base is no way coming to build up any bond. So we are not considering the nitrogen here. It's only the sugars 5 prime carbon with the phosphate molecule has come as a monomer to bond up with the above nucleotide, undergoing condensation process and losing the water molecule. So that sugars 3 phosphate, sorry, the sugars the 3 prime, that is a third prime carbon, is bonding up with this particular phosphate molecule. So phosphate with the 2 sugars on adjacent is going to be this phosphodiester bond. I think you understood about this phosphodiester bond. Let me even show you the glycosidic bond. The glycosidic bond. So this is a pyrimidine because this is having only a single ring over here connected with the first prime carbon. Remember, the nitrogen bases are connecting at the first prime carbon. This is a glycosidic bond. This sugar might be a ribose sugar or a deoxyribose sugar, and its 5th prime carbon is getting connected with the phosphate molecule over here. So this is a glycosidic bond. So we have learned about the phosphodiester bond, the glycosidic bond present, and the hydrogen bonds present between the what you call is a nitrogen bases. And you even came to know what are nucleotides, nucleosides also. Okay, now let me introduce you with another natural nucleotide present. Okay, so you know that when we are talking about the nucleic acid is not monomer, but it is a polymer of nucleotides, right? The nucleotides they are getting repeated and they're forming a huge polymer, the nucleotides, and they form what is nucleic acids. That those are the DNA and the RNA molecules which are responsible for the storage, the transfer of information, the protein synthesis. They are responsible for the functionality of the cells. They encode the information and they are regulating the proteins. These are very important for you. They are the genetic information. Okay. Now talking about, there is a very natural nucleotide. I'm not talking about a nucleic acid. I'm talking about a nucleotide. If you remember, a sugar, you can see here a sugar, and we are having a nitrogen base and a phosphate molecule, that is phosphate. But here you can see that there are 3 phosphates. I think you got now an idea what nucleotide I'm talking about. This is none other than the energy currency called as ATP, called as adenosine triphosphate. So you can see that this is a double ring structure. So this is going to be a purine called as adenine. Adenine is connected with a glycosidic bond to the sugar molecule. And you can see that since the 2nd prime carbon is having a hydroxyl group here, that is going to be a ribose sugar. Okay, so the 1st prime carbon is connected with the nitrogen base, and the 5th prime carbon is attached with the phosphate molecule. They are the 3 phosphate molecules. The phosphates are linked with each other. Okay, this is being called as a adenosine triphosphate, since it is going to have these what we call is 3 phosphate molecules. Besides this ATP, we have another natural nucleotide, and it is GTP. You remember, I think that is a guanosine triphosphate. Remember that the only difference here is going to be the G, guanine. Guanine is going to be the nitrogen base. Just change that. You're going to get guanosine triphosphate. These are actually the energy currencies. Okay, so they undergo the phosphorylation process where the ATP is going to release inorganic phosphate. One of the bonds is going to be broken, and this phosphate will be released as an inorganic phosphate. Then it forms a molecule called as adenosine with only 2 phosphates called as a diphosphate. Got it? Once again, these are the natural, this nucleotide is a natural nucleotide. This is ATP. Okay, having 3 phosphates. One of the phosphate will be cleaved, the bonds will be cleaved to release energy. Okay, that will be releasing energy here. And now coming on to ADP molecules. Okay, so when a single terminal phosphate is removed off, it forms an adenosine diphosphate. Same as ATP, we have GTP, which is going to have a guanine, and it is also going to be an energy currency. But remember that GTP, I think you have learned in the Krebs cycle. right? GTP molecule. Not only that, but also when naturally what happens is in the body, in the cells, during the process of the protein synthesis also, the energy currency that will be utilized by your cell, that will be used by your cell, is going to be GTP but not ATP. So GTP is also one of the energy currencies, and these energy currencies, that is ATP and GTP, both are regarded as a nucleotides. I hope you have understood what are these. Okay, so these nucleotides, when they are going to be repeated and they form a polymer, they are going to form the nucleic acids like your what you call as DNA, RNA. So since we are learning the biomolecules, and as we know, biomolecules are macromolecules and these are the polymers. So we know that they are going to be the polymers of these nucleotides. Okay, so let me once end up by touching up the polymers. So this was a whole content that I was being talking in the last two videos and this video, that macromolecules like your proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and the nucleic acids like DNA and RNA are the polymers of some of the monomers. That is, the monomers are going to be clubbing up together. They bond up together by a strong covalent bonds. That is, your amino acids are the monomers, which are going to form a polymer peptides, that is polypeptides, and they're going to form the proteins. And the monomers which build up the lipids are going to be the fatty acids and the glycerol. Okay, fatty acids and the glycerol. Coming on to the carbohydrates, these are the macromolecules, the polymers which are being built by the simple monomers, which are being called as monosaccharides that we could see that. Next, coming on to is the nucleic acids, which are being built up by the nucleotides. They have been built by the nucleotides. You know about that. Now we have seen about the nitrogen bases, the sugars, and the phosphates forming nucleotides. They get built up. They built up in which direction? It's going to be only from 5 prime to 3 prime only. That is very, very important. Okay. See, I told you that I'll be talking about the mutations. So when I talk about the mutations, how is it possible is, it is going to be by breaking the bonds here, these hydrogen bonds. By cleaving these hydrogen bonds, what we can do is we can actually what we do is we can free it off, and that is going to lead to the mutations. Actually, the breaking of these hydrogen bonds are going to be responsible for the mutations in the DNA molecule. Okay, I think I made it clear for you. And let me come to the DNA, RNA, that is nucleic acids, as we know. And coming on to their structure here, let me show you. Yeah, yes. So you can see that the RNA is going to be comprising of ribose sugar, which has an oxygen in the hydroxyl group. Here there is no oxygen, there is lack of that. So we call it as deoxyribose nucleic acid. And you know that your RNA is going to be also helical, but it is going to be a single stranded structure. Instead of thymine, it is comprising of uracil over here. Okay, while when you are going to check the structure of the DNA molecule, it is going to be what you call is a double helical structure, because the strands are complementary with each other, and they are pairing up by these bonds, hydrogen bonds between the nitrogen bases, which makes them a double helical structure. Okay, now coming on to the RNA is present in the cytoplasm, as I told you when I started my video. And besides that, you can see that your DNA is going to be present in the nucleus. Okay, now coming on to the functions of RNA, this is going to be helping in transferring the information from the DNA into the cytoplasm. As I told you that when we speak about the protein synthesis, it's going to be the DNA unwinds, and one of the strands of the DNA is going to be copied into mRNA, which is a messenger RNA, which is produced in the nuclei, which leaves the nuclei and enters into the cytoplasm, where the ribosome comes and translates, and along with this transfer RNA, it is going to be the tRNA, the ribosomes, which are going to translate your what you call is your mRNA, and they're going to release what you call is they are going to translate the genetic code carried by the mRNA into amino acids, which will be linked up by the peptide bonds, forming a huge polypeptide polymers called as proteins. Okay, so that is going to be transfer of genetic code out of the nucleus in form of mRNA. That you need to remember. Now, coming on to translation, as I told you, that the code, the genetic code which is present in the DNA copied into mRNA coming into the cytoplasm, that is going to be translated into amino acids. As I told you, it's going to be a triplet codon. Three of the nucleotides on the mRNA togetherly forms one amino acid. So that is another topic that is going to be coming in the transcription translation that we are not going to cover. But just remember that the mRNA that comes up by taking up the code from the DNA, the nucleotides, the three of the nucleotides present on the mRNA are going to togetherly form up a single amino acid, and they have been translated by these ribosomes. Okay, and they form up these proteins. When we speak about the DNA functions, it is going to be storing the genetic information, and it is a one which is controlling the cell functions, because I told you that is a molecule which is going to actually have encoding the information regarding the functions of your cells. Okay, and it is responsible for genetic information carrying from the parents to the offsprings, as well as it is responsible for the variations, the differences amongst the parents and the offsprings, what we call as variations. That is, DNA is responsible for the genetic information, heredity, and variations. This is for the protein for synthesis, and regulation of the proteins is done by these RNA. Okay, and where they are found is in the cytoplasm, where they are found is going to be in the nucleus. Okay, I think I made it clear to you all, children, that what are that is nucleic acids. We are calling them as nucleic acids because of the presence of the phosphate molecule, which is polar, negatively charged, making a DNA hydrophilic over here. That is because of the phosphate molecule. And coming up with I even spoke about what are nucleotides, how they are being built, what are nucleotides, what are nucleosides, that is nucleosides. I introduced you with the photo 51. I introduced you with the natural nucleotides present. Okay, and we could even see the what we call is uh, the a difference in functions of the DNA and RNA. So what I was talking about, the protein synthesis, see, you have a image here. This is a double helical structure. There is a DNA which is being present, having a sugar phosphate backbone. That is a phosphodized sugar phosphate backbone. This is going to be your sugar, no, lacking an oxygen. This is your nitrogen base present. Okay, so what happens is the DNA unwinds, and it is going to release mRNA, as I told you, that is also going to be single stranded. Okay, that will be translated by the ribosomes as well as a transfer RNA, okay, making up a protein molecule. Talking about the RNA, you can say this is a single stranded structure having a sugar with the nitrogen bases as well as the phosphate. So this is the one, these are the two nucleic acids that I was talking about. I spoke about the functions also. I hope you all children have understood this. Okay, so we covered up the carbohydrates, we covered up the what you call is nucleic acids, and we covered up even the lipids. So by this we are ending up the biomolecules. We have the next is going to be the proteins. I'll be coming up with a video on proteins also. But uh, what you call is, before I end up, I think I have to give a reminder that a few of you have asked me to make a video on excretion. So I'll be starting up. My next video is going to be on the excretion. So please log in, check out the video. Okay. And please, if you like this video, hit like and subscribe, because my channel is going to be on whole building up a concept. It's not only based on the what you call is pumping up with few of the important points and all, but this is going to actually help up in building up the concepts, which is going to make you an actual science student to understand the concepts. Because in order to modify something or come up with something new, you need to understand what is existing before, right? When you know about the existing thing, you can actually modify or you can update that particular existing thing into a new thing. So that is actually a science student. So I'll be helping you in understanding and cracking down few of the hard things. So please try to subscribe to my channel. Okay, thank you so much.